The spreadsheet on my computer screen blurred as tears welled up in my eyes. 4 years of meticulously hidden transfers, 200,000 rand, systematically drained from our company accounts. Each fraudulent transaction bore the same digital signature, Kofi, my business partner, my own flesh and blood. I gripped the edge of my mahogany desk, trying to steady myself in my 32 ND floor office overlooking Johannesburg's skyline. The same view that once represented my triumph as an African woman in corporate leadership now felt like it was mocking me. Lord Jesus, I whispered, my voice breaking. How could this happen? The evidence was undeniable. While I had been building our consulting firm's reputation among Johannesburg's elite, Kofi had been quietly bleeding us dry. Every major contract, every celebrated milestone, all undermined by systematic theft. My phone buzzed. Another message from Kofi, asking about our afternoon meeting. My stomach churned as I read it. Just yesterday, we had shared lunch, laughed together, planned our company's future. Now I knew it was all a facade. In our African culture, betraying family trust is more than a crime, it's an unthinkable violation of our most sacred bonds. Yet here I sat, proof in hand, facing the destruction of not just my business, but my entire world. I tried praying again, but the words wouldn't come. For years I'd proclaimed Christ in the marketplace, built my business on Christian principles. Now shame threatened to overwhelm my faith. How had I been so blind? The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across my office floor. I had to confront her. There was no avoiding it, but my hands trembled as I gathered the financial records. Years of Sunday school teachings about forgiveness felt hollow in the face of such calculated betrayal. Jesus, give me strength. I breathed, standing on shaky legs. The walk to Kofi's office felt like a death march. Each step echoed through our pristine corporate suite, the space we'd designed together with such hope and pride. I found her reviewing contracts, the picture of professional innocence. She looked up with a smile that froze when she saw my face. We need to talk, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. About these, I placed the financial records on her desk. The next few minutes were a blur of denials, then excuses, then bitter accusations. Words like daggers flew between us, family bonds shredding in real time. My attempts at extending grace were met with defensive pride. Her final words still ring in my ears. You think you're so righteous with your fake Christian principles. Where was your Jesus when I needed help? I stood there, struck silent by the venom in her voice. In that moment, I realized that all my success, all my careful planning, had left me utterly unprepared for this crisis of faith and family. The sun had set by the time I returned to my office. Johannesburg's lights twinkled below, but I felt only darkness. Everything I'd built my identity around, business success, family loyalty, my reputation as a Christian leader, lay in ruins around me. Yet as I sank to my knees beside my desk, something shifted. Through my tears, I remembered Jesus' words about forgiveness. Not the easy forgiveness of minor slights, but the costly grace of forgiving deep betrayal. Lord, I whispered into the darkness, I can't forgive her for this. I just can't. Maybe one day, help me fix this mess. I didn't hear a dramatic answer, no voice from heaven, no instant solution, just a quiet reminder that Jesus himself had faced betrayal by those closest to him. And somehow, in that moment of complete brokenness, I felt his presence more clearly than I had in years of corporate success. The path ahead was uncertain, but as I looked out over the city lights, I knew one thing: this crisis would either break my faith entirely or teach me what it truly meant to follow Jesus, even through betrayal. Let me go back. 3 months earlier, life sparkled like the morning sun on Johannesburg's glass towers. I stood at my corner office window, watching the city wake up as I sipped my morning coffee. The view from the 32nd floor never failed to remind me how far I'd come from my humble beginnings. Another record quarter, Kofi, my cousin and business partner, said, dropping the latest financial reports on my desk. The numbers made me smile. Our import-export business had grown beyond my wildest dreams. We were connecting skilled African artisans with high-end retailers across 3 continents. I walked through our bustling office, pride swelling in my chest. 20 employees, all focused and productive. The rhythmic click of keyboards and quiet buzz of phone conversations filled the air. This was my kingdom, built from nothing but determination and faith. My weekly business leadership class at the mosque had doubled in size. Young entrepreneurs hung on my every word as I shared principles of success. Stay true to your values, I would tell them. Let your faith guide your business decisions. If only I had known then how hollow those words would soon become. That afternoon, I hosted potential investors in our sleek conference room. The city skyline provided a perfect backdrop as I presented our expansion plans. Their approving nods and thoughtful questions confirmed what I already believed. We were unstoppable. Your company's reputation is impeccable, one investor said. Your financial records are exemplary. I accepted the praise with what I thought was humble gratitude, but looking back, I see the pride that had taken root in my heart. Every evening, I would pray, thanking God for my success, but truth be told, I was already beginning to worship something else, the golden idol of achievement. My daily prayers had become rushed formalities between meetings. My generous giving to the mosque felt more like networking than devotion. The warning signs were there, if I'd had eyes to see them. Small discrepancies in the books that Kofi too quickly explained away. Delayed responses to routine audit questions. The way he changed the subject whenever I mentioned certain accounts. But I was too intoxicated by success to notice. My name was being mentioned in business magazines. I was invited to speak at prestigious conferences. The African Queen of Import-Export, they called me. Each accolade was another brick in the wall of pride that would soon come crashing down. Late one night, as the office lights of Johannesburg twinkled below, I stood at my window again. In the glass reflection, I saw a woman who thought she had it all figured out. A woman who believed she controlled her destiny. A woman who had no idea that life was about to break through every certainty she clung to. The security guard's footsteps echoed in the empty office as he made his rounds. "Heading home soon, Miss Khadija?" he asked. I nodded, gathering my things, unaware that in just 3 months, nothing in my carefully constructed world would remain the same. That night, I slept the sleep of the successful blind to the storm that was gathering. Tomorrow would be another day of meetings, decisions, and achievements. Or so I thought. God had other plans. Plans that would shatter my world but save my soul. The morning after discovering the theft, I stood at my office window in our Johannesburg tower, watching the sunrise paint the city gold. That beautiful light felt like a mockery. My hands trembled as I held another damning audit report. The next week brought fresh horrors. Each spreadsheet revealed deeper betrayals. What started as missing thousands had ballooned into millions. Kofi hadn't just stolen money. She'd falsified contracts, diverted payments, and destroyed relationships with our African artisan cooperatives that had taken years to build. Then she disappeared. I stopped sleeping. When I did drift off, nightmares jolted me awake, heart racing. The corporate success story I'd built was crumbling, and I couldn't stop it. I'd always been the strong one, the fixer, but this betrayal was too big to fix. By the second week, my body revolted. Constant headaches pounded behind my eyes. My stomach churned, refusing food. The doctor diagnosed severe anxiety and handed me prescriptions, but pills couldn't touch the deeper sickness in my soul. I threw myself into damage control, working 18-hour days, but every solution backfired. Our biggest client discovered the irregularities and pulled their contracts. 3 more followed. Our reputation in Johannesburg's business community was poisoned. 1 month in, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Dark circles shadowed my eyes. My designer suits hung loose. The strong, successful businesswoman everyone had admired was dissolving before my eyes. I went through the motions of prayer, but they felt hollow. I'd always been the good Christian, with generous donations. But now, alone in my crisis, I realized how empty it all was. I had religion, but no relationship. Rules, but no real faith. The breaking point came during a board meeting 6 weeks after the discovery. As I tried to explain our latest losses, my vision blurred. The room started spinning. I couldn't catch my breath. They had to call an ambulance when I collapsed. In the sterile quiet of the hospital room, machines beeping steadily, I finally faced the truth. I didn't know Jesus at all. I'd built my life on sand, and now the storm had come. "Help me," I whispered into the darkness. It wasn't a polished prayer, just 2 raw words from a broken heart. That's when I felt it, a presence in the room, not the cold comfort of religion, but something alive, someone real. In that moment, Jesus didn't feel like a distant figure in a stained glass window. He felt closer than my own breath. "I can't fix this," I admitted out loud. "I can't fix myself." Peace washed over me, not from my own strength, but from His. I caught a glimmer of what grace meant. Jesus wasn't waiting for me to be strong enough, good enough, or holy enough. He was reaching for me in my weakness. Could I accept Him fully? I hoped so. The business was still in crisis. The betrayal still hurt, but something fundamental had shifted. I wasn't facing it alone anymore. After years of religious activity, I really needed to know Jesus. It was hard seeing Him through everything happening, and failed more than I succeeded. That night in the hospital marked the end of my self-reliance and the beginning of real faith. At least that was my plan. The journey ahead would be hard, but I had found what my soul had been searching for all along, not success or security, but a Savior who meets us in our brokenness and makes all things new. The Johannesburg skyline blurred through my tears as I drove aimlessly through the dark streets. Another set of fraudulent documents had surfaced today, more proof of Kofi's betrayal and worse, the split in our family. Years of theft, all happening right under my nose, while I proudly built what I thought was a respected consulting firm. I couldn't go home, not tonight, not with the weight of this shame crushing my chest. The steering wheel became my confessional as my fingers gripped it until my knuckles turned white. The empty parking lot of our corporate tower seemed fitting, a concrete wasteland for my shattered dreams. I killed the engine, and the silence pressed in like a physical force. In the rearview mirror, a stranger stared back at me. Gone was the confident businesswoman who once strode through these towers in designer heels. Instead, I saw hollow eyes and trembling lips. "Why?" The whisper escaped before I could stop it. Then louder. "Why?" My scream echoed off the concrete walls, a sound of pure anguish that frightened even me. All my life, I'd been Khadija the capable, Khadija the strong, the one who never failed, who always had the answers. Now my carefully constructed identity lay in ruins at my feet. The numbers danced mockingly in my head. Our company accounts were nearly empty. The reputation I'd spent a decade building was destroyed. Even my prayers felt hollow now, bouncing off the ceiling and falling back like dead things. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the window. "Jesus," I whispered, "if you're real, where are you now? I have nothing left to give you, nothing left to prove, nothing left to lose." The silence that followed was different somehow. It was a waiting silence. My phone buzzed, probably another angry client, another demand I couldn't meet. I let it ring. In this moment, suspended between who I was and who I would become, time seemed to stop. A memory surfaced, a weathered Bible in church, the pages worn soft with use. The teacher said, "When you reach the end of yourself, that's where Jesus begins." I'd smiled politely then, secure in my self-sufficiency. But here in this concrete cavern of broken dreams, I finally understood. My striving had led me here. My strength had failed me. My wisdom had proven foolish. "Jesus," I whispered again, but this time it wasn't a challenge. It was a surrender. "I can't fix this. I can't save my company. I can't restore my reputation. I need you, not as a business partner or spiritual consultant. I need you as Lord." The tears came again, but they were different now. Instead of the hot tears of anger and shame, these were the quiet tears of release, of letting go. I sat there until the first gray light of dawn began to paint the sky. My problems hadn't vanished. The company accounts were still empty. The betrayal still stung, but something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in my life, I wasn't facing it alone. I wasn't Khadija the capable anymore, and surprisingly that felt like freedom. I was simply Khadija, a broken woman in desperate need of a savior. As the sun rose over Johannesburg's towers, I started my car with trembling hands. I didn't know what the day would bring, but I knew who would walk through it with me. The Jesus I'd kept at arm's length all my life had met me in my darkness, not with condemnation, but with grace. I drove home as the city began to wake, the words of surrender still fresh on my lips. The road ahead would be hard, redemption usually is. But that night in the parking lot marked the end of my solitary journey and the beginning of something new, a walk of faith with the one who specializes in raising dead things to life. I meant it this time. In that darkest moment, I remembered Menixe, a client whose peaceful presence had always intrigued me. She spoke of Jesus with such quiet confidence that even in my previous skepticism, her faith had left an impression. With trembling fingers, I dialed her number, not caring about the late hour. "Khadija," her voice was warm, concerned. "What's wrong?" The whole story poured out. The discovery of years of theft, the betrayal by someone I trusted, the shame of failing my family's legacy. Menixe listened without judgment, without interruption. When I finally fell silent, she spoke words that pierced my darkness. "Jesus knows exactly how betrayal feels. He was betrayed by his closest friends, yet he forgave them and offered new life. He can do the same for you." "But how?" I whispered, desperate for answers. "How can anyone recover from this kind of deception?" "Let me pray with you," Menixe offered. As she prayed, something extraordinary happened. A presence filled my office, tangible, warm, overwhelming in its love. For the first time in my life, I felt truly known and completely accepted. "Jesus," I breathed, hardly aware I was speaking. "If you're real, if you can heal this mess, I give you my life, all of it." The peace that flooded my soul in that moment defied description. It wasn't just emotional relief. It was transformation at the deepest level. In the days that followed, Jesus began reshaping my entire worldview. Through Menixe's introduction, I joined a Christian business ministry where I found mentors who understood both faith and finance. They helped me see that success wasn't measured by profit margins, but by integrity and God's approval. The journey wasn't easy. Dealing with the financial aftermath of the theft required painful decisions about family and business. But Jesus gave me strength I never knew I possessed. He taught me that forgiveness doesn't mean denying wrong. It means releasing the power that bitterness held over me. Each morning I began meeting with Jesus before touching any business matters. His presence became more real than my problems. When anxiety threatened to overwhelm me, His peace would wash over me again, reminding me that my identity was no longer in my achievements but in His love. The most profound change came in how I viewed Kofi. Through Christ's eyes, I began to see not just a betrayer, but a broken person in need of the same grace I'd received. While legal consequences remained necessary, hatred melted away into something like compassion. Within 6 months, my business had been restructured, smaller but built on biblical principles of integrity and service. The corporate towers of Johannesburg no longer intimidated me because I knew my worth came from something far higher than market value. Today, when I walk through those gleaming office buildings, I'm no longer driven by the need to prove myself. Instead, I carry a quiet confidence that comes from knowing whose I am. Jesus turned my story of betrayal into a testimony of His faithfulness. Every day still brings challenges, but I'm never alone in facing them. The same presence that met me in that midnight hour walks with me through each decision, each meeting, each obstacle. My business card may read CEO, but my true title is Daughter of the King. In my darkest hour, Jesus didn't just offer me a solution, He offered me Himself. And in finding Him, I found everything I'd been searching for all along. My life's purpose is no longer building wealth but sharing this transforming grace with others trapped in their own cycles of performance and pain. This is what Jesus does. He takes our deepest betrayals and turns them into bridges to His heart. In losing everything, I found the one thing that can never be stolen: His unfailing love.